got the Reed vise ready to go back together. Now I've already put it together a couple of times, just test fitting things, but we're going to go over the assembly. It's not a whole lot to it, and in between putting it together, I'll break off and show you some of the machine work. There's a little bit of video on everything. So again, guys, this is the little backstory on this. This is my dad's vise. He's had it since I was a teenager, probably in the, I don't know, 80s. It's a 206. Now, I've read a couple places that Reed would sell their seconds or something, their imperfect vices, and when they would do that, they wouldn't cast some of the information on it, and that might be what this is. It's right here is a spot where I would think that the patent number and things like that are supposed to be, and it was never put in there. It was like it was ground off, actually. So I'm thinking that maybe this is one of those seconds. So it's still, I don't know when it was built. There's been some good guesses, but I'm gonna assume 40s or 50s. But anyway, it was my dad's vise. He had it since I was like a teenager, probably early 80s. And I remember it was old when we got it. So, and maybe even before then. It's pretty simple to put back together. What I'm going to do is we'll start assembling it and we'll break off and go to some of the video and see how we did some of the stuff. There was a couple of things that I did that were pretty cool. Most of it was just basic machining, however. So let's get on with it. First thing we're going to do is let's move this screw out of the way. Now, look, I got some of the stuff already assembled. Another thing, there was some good suggestions brought in by some of the viewers, and I took them to heart and implemented a couple of those things. So, all right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the nut. Now, I didn't paint the nut. I didn't see any reason for it. It wasn't painted originally. And the nut, it slides in the back. It's got a V groove cut into the vise, and you got a nice dovetail, or a dovetail cut into the vise, and you got a nice dovetail cut into the nut itself. Before we do that, I got some grease here. We're gonna grease some of this stuff. Let's see if I can find something to grease it with, except using my fingers. Got some semi-synthetic high temperature grease here, and we're just going to take an acid brush and go down in there and just kind of distribute it into the nut. Should be enough in here for my lifetime anyway. Anyway, the nut installs, it slides into the dovetail and just pushes forward. Now, I had one viewer comment that I've possibly taken the pin out incorrectly. However, I've got to check it, and I thought maybe I did too, since I was having such a hard time, but I got to thinking about it, and I got to check it, and this particular vise installs the way I took it out. So the pin slides in right here, and this is the original pin. I've checked the diameters, and the minor diameter is right here. Now I'm using it. We're just going to take and hammer here. We're just going to take and drive this pin in. That locks the dovetail in. Okay. So our next thing we're going to do is we have the base casting here, and we have these two nuts or bolts. All right. So we're going to roll this vise upside down. And install this base casting. All right, so the next thing we had to machine was this pivot. It's basically like an axle. It keeps this base centered. This one was actually had rusted into the to the bottom, and the threads weren't in very good shape. So we made a new one, and there's some video of that, and I'll show it now. All right, guys, so we're back over at old 748, and the next part we're going to make for the vise is going to be this this bolt that goes in the bottom. Now, this one, I had a hard time getting it out. I actually had to take and unscrew the base to get this out because it was kind of seized in the base. But it's seen better days, so we're going to remake it. I think this one was made out of cast iron originally, but what we're going to use is we're going to use this piece of hex stock. Now, it's not quite as large as this piece of material here, but I think it'll be fine. And if not, we'll take and make a washer to go underneath it or something. But anyway, we're going to turn the dimension. We're going to thread. It's got a 1" 12 thread on it. We'll turn this dimension, and like I said, we'll use it as a hex instead of a slotted screw. But there ain't a whole lot of action to see. So basically, we're just going to face off to start with. Make sure we're on center. Let's give this a good little facing shot here. All right, so the first dimension we're going to work on is we're going to turn this major diameter right here. We'll turn it, rough it out. We'll rough it out to, it looks like it's 1 3/8, so we'll probably go to 1 400 or so. See what we got. We got 875, so we got 7/8 there, and we got 1 inch there. So we need to go 1 inch and 7/8. Let's take a little more bite. Let's see what we can do right there. we just about got it round. All right, let's take a, let's see, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 20. Let's take 125 aside. Guys, so I'm set up here for threading. Now there's no good way to get you in here and get a good shot. I got a camera mounted on my back. You can see what's going on up here. But I wanted to kind of let you stay out there and watch the operation of this lathe when we're threading. We've set up, we've already turned our relief in. We've chamfered both edges. And we've set up and tested that we're cutting thread 12 threads per inch. We got a little indicator up here to let us know at 12 threads per inch we're supposed to feed 60 to 3 thousandths single-sided. So we're gonna move in 63 thousandths with this thread gauge here. If I can get it, let me get this thing adjusted to 0. All right, so we're gonna feed in 63 thousandths, and that should be our thread. And again, I want you to see the operation of this lathe threader. We've set our stops, and we got everything set up. We're ready to go. Let's make our first pass. So we got a little bit of oil. We're running about 100 RPMs. So looks like we're ready. What we need to do is engage our half nut, and we'll hit our feed. All right, so it's disengaged, okay? So we just pull our quick draw back in reverse. Feed back out. Push our quick draw back in. Feed in our indicator. All right. So we're feeding about 5 thousandths, and we're going to re-engage. All right, so we're cutting our thread. Pull back on our half nut. Not our half nut, I'm sorry, but our compound. Let us come back over. Turn it back off. Now I didn't set up the right side. Push this in, and I'm gonna keep an eye on this dial. So we fed in about 10. Let's go that much more. Give ourselves a little oil and hit your feed. right, now the reason you do that, there's no thread dial on this lathe. This lathe was set up to thread this way. So we fit in again. Guys, so we finished with the thread. Nice fit. This lathe here really does a good job of threading. All right, so now we need to finish up these two surfaces and we'll be good. All right, guys, there it is. It's to finish the finished bolt. Actually, it's a pivot stud for the vise. I'm going to make a washer to go on here to give it a little more surface, just because of the difference in the diameters there. But sure is an improvement. So one more part down, a couple more parts to go. Is we want to grease these these surfaces here on the base, just a light grease. Remember, we don't want enough that it comes oozing out everywhere, but we do want it a little bit protected and a little bit lubricated. This is the only way really to lube this surface is while it's apart. All right, we're going to lube the center just a tad for it to swivel. All right, so this base goes on. It goes in these two holes right here. All right, like I said, we're just going to just touch lube on here for it to swivel. And like I said, this is like an axle. So we want to tighten it up to not have any play. There we go. Okay, so now let's roll our vise back on its front. So, all right, so the next thing we want to install, we had the Tommy bars and the nuts, and had another viewer suggest that we use hex stock and use them to where we could use a wrench to tighten them. Now, technically, I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think these things are engineered, the Tommy bars are engineered to where that's the maximum amount of torque that you should put on them. But I went ahead and did it because I thought it was a good idea. We remade the Tommy bars. Basically, we used a 1/2-inch stock and then used a turned piece to fit on the end, and it's just a press fit. Very simple stuff. And I got a little video of that stuff too. So I'll send you the video. right, guys, so now we got the Tommy bars, and the nut we basically made, we just drilled and got a counter bore here that that allows us to have clearance when we making the turn. So we're going to install this, and this takes a couple minutes, especially if you drop down in the hole there. And basically, the only way to install this is either to do it before you put the Tommy bar on, or just to take and do it half a turn at a time. Now, here I'll show you what I'm talking about. There's a counter bore right here, so you get your clearance where to pass by. Now I ended up painting these. I wanted to leave them natural, but they're going to rust. So I went ahead and painted them, and I realized that as soon as you put a wrench on them, if I ever do, that the paint will be gone. All right, there's tight. So we're a half turn from tight on both of them. So we turned that one, and we turn that one with no movement. All right, guys, so the next thing we're going to go ahead and install the vise jaws. And I'm going to do this to keep from having to work with the vise open. Now, the vise jaws, I made them out of some brass. And I wanted to put a pattern in them. So I was going to set up on the mill and do a little pattern. But I got to thinking about my shaper. And how consistent would it be, and would it allow me to do this? So what I did is I set the shaper up with basically a threading bit. I took and ground a bit that had a nice sharp point on it, right at 60 degrees, so it can be used for threading. And then I set my shaper up and set it up for maximum feed, and just let it and set up the vise at 45 degrees and just let it stroke over its maximum stroke, which was about, I don't know, 60, 80 thousandths or something like that. I haven't set it up to see. And it turned out really nice. I mean, there was really no planning on it. I took a test bar and did it, see what it looked like, and then I basically set up the jaws in there and did those. It turned out really well. So got a little video of it, and let's go watch it. All right, guys, I got you over at the G&E Shaper. And what we're doing is we're actually knurling the vise jaws for the reed vise. I wanted to create a little diamond pattern in them, and how I'm doing this is basically just setting up the shaper and running the maximum feed, so which is probably about 60 to 80 thousandths. So it's going to step over 60 to 80 thousandths. I got a tool here. It's ground. It's basically a threading tool. It's ground at 60 degrees, and we're going to step this over and hope to get a nice diamond pattern. Now we've already done one that came out pretty good. So I've come in here and I've touched off on my corner. I need to feed down about 25 thousandths, and then we'll start up the shaper. Now I'm going to start my fan back up. It's about 100 degrees out here today, so there's not a whole lot of video I've been shooting with this project, only because it's so hot. So this is the first pass. So we've got the. All right, let me start back over here. I've got the. If you remember, this vise was indexed at 45 degrees on both sides, so that's what we're using. We're going to run this side, and then we're going to have to move the vise around and move the part around and run the second side. So we're set up. We've already done one, so we got a pretty good setup here. And I'm going to start it going, and I'll just leave the video running. There's the feed. All right, guys, so we've got the part down at the other end of the vise. We've got the vise rotated to the other side at 45 degrees. And now we're ready to cut the second part of it. So stand by. All right, guys, there you have it. One narrow vise jaw. All right, guys, so I hope y'all enjoyed that. So now what we're doing is we're installing the vices, jaws into the vise. Now, there was one little error I made when I was drilling these vise jaws, and it was on this movable jaw here that we're off probably 40 thousandths or so. I thought about correcting it, but right now it'll never, as far as fit, form, and function, it'll never create a problem. So we're just going to leave it like it is right now. I knew about it before I had hatched it. I don't know if you'd call that knurling or hatching of the jaws, but I decided to leave it like it is, and I'll show it to you when we get the vices put together. There was a little error I made on the mill when I drilled them, apparently. All right, so we've got our vice jaws installed. So we got the nut installed, the vice jaws installed, the Tommy bars, and what we're going to do now is we're getting ready to install the ram. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to do it a nice light greasing. Okay. We're going to take our ram, and we need to install the turn it over this way. We need to install our screw. All right, so the next part I ended up making was we had this part here, this washer, and basically it's just a thrust washer for when you're opening the vise, so it never gets any pressure, but it had been broken and repaired, and So I went ahead and made a new one. And we're going to do the same thing with the screw, but we're going to since we got to grease this anyway, we're going to grease this screw right up on top of it. I got a little squeaky fan here, guys, so I hope you don't mind. It's early in the morning, it's already maybe 85 in here. I don't have the big fans running just for the sound. And that's a lot of the reasons I don't show a whole lot of the process here, and I hadn't been making as many videos. It's just been so hot that the video quality is not there, which my quality probably has never been there too much. But anyway, we want to insert this, and then we have to insert this thrust washer. Whoa, before we go anywhere, we got a thrust washer for the outside too. And we're going to do the same thing there. We're going to put a little dab of grease around it. Just enough. Okay, so we're going to put this in, install the thrust washer we made. Slide your nut and vise in, rotate it to where it's top dead center, and all right, so another thing we made here, guys, wipe the sweat off my brow, is we made these Tommy bars. So we're going to turn this around to where I can have access. We're going to grease the wear surface on this ram. Again, I don't want to mess, so I'm just trying to put a light coat. All right, so all right, guys, so one of the last things that we made was the handle. And it's basically made the same as our other Tommy bars. It's a piece of 7/8 drill rod, and it was turned for a press fit for these parts on the outside here. Now, I had another viewer suggest that we put O-rings on the bar, and I got to thinking about it. That was a great idea, and for two reasons. One, it eliminates all that banging and stuff when you go to working the handle, and you can slide it out in areas and keep it from actually moving if you wanted to keep it tight. So I installed two O-rings on the outside. That's what you see there, and that's what we did. Now, just talking about this vise, I'm gonna try to clamp it down. Let's see. All right, guys. We've got the vise opened up as much as it'll go that I would trust it going anyway. And we're just going to do some dimensioning. We got 9 3/4 inches by 6. So we can put a pretty good chunk of metal in there, or wood, or whatever. I just got it held down by a clamp back there, so I'm not going to put a whole lot of pressure on it. But it works good. It's nice and smooth now. Just lock down that Tommy bar. There we go. All right, so I guess that concludes the vise build. And as you know, this was my dad's vise, and my dad always went by well, since he was a little kid, his nickname was Buddy. So we're gonna name this vise Buddy. And that way, every time I'm out here in the shop, a little piece of my dad's with me working. So anyway, with that said, guys, thanks for watching. Leave feedback. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it took forever for a simple project, but there was a lot of things in between. So hit the like button, leave a comment, and till next time from the Backyard Machine Shop, so long.